Hello, and welcome to Whip It Up Wednesday. Here I am back again to help you learn some quick and easy cards that you can make in no time flat. Um, Simple but beautiful cards that take very little time. Or perhaps you're a new stamper, and these cards would be a good option for you too to help you along your crafting journey as you learn some new things. So, welcome, and we are going to feature today the Sweet Blooms bundle. And um, these can be purchased together for a 10% discount, or you can buy them as part of a full suite. Today, because we're keeping it simple, I am just featuring the stamp set, but I will show you the dies can be worked in as well. So the words here get can be die cut in two different layers, a background like a shadow effect and the words. And you have two frame type dies that will cut out these images. But like I said, we're not using that today because we are keeping it simple for Whip It Up Wednesday. So what we will need today, we're doing a clean and simple type card. So what you need is a white card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25, right down the middle. This is very standard A2 size that I use a lot for my card making. And then we need a layer of white also, because it's going to be very clean and simple look. A lot of white space, 5.5 by 4. Or we might take it down a notch, take off a 1/4 inch, and we could use 5 by 3.25. And I will show you a couple different options on how that looks as well. All right, so let's start with, the other thing that you need is a few little scraps that I'm not going to give you some measurements for because we're just going to go with whatever size the scraps are that you happen to have. I'm using some white scraps that are going to be stamping on, and I'm going to be using 3 ink colors. Secret C, which is the same as my cardstock scraps here. Garden Green, so I can use that for the stems and the leaves. And Cloud Cover. Now, Secret C and Cloud Cover are in colors for 2025 to 2027. However, we cannot get an ink pad with the Cloud Cover because Stampin' Up! Has discovered that something with the chemistry of the ink has reacted with the foam pad in the classic pad that we have for all of our other stamps. But you can purchase these spots, which come 5 to a pack, uninked, and you can buy the re-inker and simply add ink to that little spot, and then you have an ink pad because this is like a fabric, like an old-fashioned fabric type pad here. So just adding some drops. I've done it a few times already, of course, and you can see how it's seeping into the thickness of the pad there. So this is not the foam that this is here. So that is a good option for using the Cloud Cover re-inker on that. So if you want to do some stamping with that, which is what I'm doing today. So I'm going to move these out of the way, and I'm also going to be using my blending brush. I have one for each general color. You can see my little cover here says blue. I'm just reusing my little cello bag that my stamping, my alcohol markers came in, and I just put a label up here so that when I keep it in my little bin next to me, I can see the color there. Because once this is dark, I might not realize, okay, is it brown or black or purple or whatever. But I also have these little clips on there that I had gotten from online. I think it was on Etsy. But anyway, so we're going to be using this to make a quick, easy background. Now, you could do some embossing on this layer. You could do some light background stamping, but like I said, we're keeping it simple today. I'm going to use the 3 3/4 by 5 layer first, and one of these card bases, we're going to fold it in half, the mountain side of the score line should go inside so that you see a cleaner look on your fold on the outside. Score that, burnish that with your bone folder. It's already scored. You want a nice sharp crease on your cards. Otherwise, it looks a little sloppy. Now, this is going to leave a nice 1/4 inch all the way around your card base. So sometimes when you're doing white on white, you want more definition to see that border there. Okay, so now I'm going to take my cloud cover, and I'm going to take my blending brush. I'm going to tap it here, and then I'm going to tap it off rather than dirty my regular grid paper. I'm just going to use some scrap paper here and try to keep my desktop a little neat today. So I'm going to tap off just a little bit because I don't want a big glob of ink to get onto my card. Now, typically we start off the paper and come on, but so that you don't have that initial impact of the bristles coming directly down onto your paper like that and getting that little speckly look. So if you work your way in, it'll be a smoother transition onto there. However, I'm going to take this just a little more carefully because I don't want to go all the way to the edge. So I'm not going to come in from off the paper onto the edge. I'm going to try very, very carefully. I'm inking this up, but I'm going to take off that initial blob of ink there. I'm going to start my motion before I even touch the paper. I'm going to start the motion and very gently as I can, start touching the paper. Super, super, super gently. And then I'm going to start working that ink in sort of like a glow, a little bit of glow or shadow over here. I am getting a little bit of swirls in there, but I can kind of blend that out. That's the idea of blending brushes. I am like barely touching the paper to start off with, and then I'm going to go a little bit more firm pressure to bring that little glow, that little touch of color all the way around. Okay. And this is going to be just a little background to our focal point, which is going to be one of those flowers from Sweet Blooms. Okay, we have a two-step. We're going to have the flowers and the stems. Okay, so I just have a little bit of a shadowy look or glow, I like to call it, of the color there. And I might want to come back and revisit that once I see how my focal point's going to get on. I'm just going to leave that there. This is going to be a vertical card to start with. And I'm going to now take some of my scraps. Like I said, I don't have any regular measurements for this. I'm just going to use what I have here. So that makes it quick and easy, right? You don't have to look up a measurement for something. So I'm going, let's say I just take this piece here. And I'm going to do a single bouquet of flowers here. So I have the one piece that has the stem leaves. And I'm going to stamp that right on there. And then I have another piece that is the flowers. And I'm just going to do them in Secret C. It's almost a monochromatic type card, but we are using the green for the leaves and the stems. All right. Now, if you want a lighter look, you can stamp off first and then come on to your paper that you want to put on your card. I'm going to do this one just dark, and then I'll show you the difference later on. Okay. There you go. I know it almost looks black, but it's really dark color, and it will look a little bit more blue as it kind of soaks into the card. All right, so now obviously, but we don't want this crooked or ragged edge over here. So I'm going to just bring in my trimmer and trim it down a little bit, and then I'll make a match to fit it. So let me come on in here. I'm just trying to get the same amount of space on either side. All right, might have to do a little more on the other side just to even it off a little bit. Okay, there. I'm just cutting to fit the image. And then I'm going to pull in a scrap from my Secret C. And this will not fit this way, so I'm just going to go this way. And I'm not even going to measure this with numbers with my grid paper or my ruler. I'm just going to leave the amount of border that I want. And I just take my fingernail and make a little bit of a score line there with my fingernail. And you can do it with a pencil if you like. But that's just not quick and easy there. And then I'll bring back my trimmer and cut it right where I see that little tick that I made. There and there. And like I said, you don't have to follow a recipe. Just go with what you have. Leave as much border as you like. Doesn't have to be a set amount. Okay, just whatever looks good to you at the moment. Using the scraps that you have. Glue that together. And on a clean, simple card, you don't need a big focal point. The whole idea is to have a lot of white space or blank space. It doesn't have to be actual white. Okay, now it looks, I'm going to be putting this here. I know it's a little hard to see the light cloud cover color there, but it looks like I could bring a little bit more down here so that I see more of that glow around my focal point. So I'll bring this back again. Don't want it too heavy. I do want a little bit more over here. A little bit more down below because this is kind of tall. Okay, so I like the sort of the natural, not too finished look to that. It just looks like a nice faded look, so to speak. Okay, I'm just going to brush my blending brush on my scrap paper until I don't see much color coming off, and it's all good. Just put that back in the sleeve and put that away. All right, now we want our sentiment. Now, one thing that's really nice about these is they're big, so you don't need a whole lot of other things on your paper when you're using these sentiments. Like I said, you can stamp them and then die cut them, or you can die cut both pieces and and then glue those together instead of stamping them at all, or you can just stamp like I'm doing here. All right, so this is really big, and it's going to go all the way across the bottom of my card. And I'm going to get this straight as I can. Oop, there we go. And another thing about this stamp set that's nice is you can mix and match the sentiments. So you have the big word bloom. You can stamp, this is a separate stamp, where you're planted, bloom where you're planted. It's a lovely sentiment. Or I'm going to do let joy bloom. Okay. And then with lovely, you can mix and match. It's a lovely day. Have a lovely day, or whatever you want to have there. And then you also have this other one, which again, I love. You make me smile. That's very versatile as well. All right. So then let's take our other piece that has the two words on it. I still have it here, I think. Yep, here it is. I didn't take it out of the case yet. Let joy bloom. I'm going to just add that above the word bloom. Okay, and have a lovely sentiment there for a happy occasion. All right, and we're going to put this here, mount it on our card base, and guess what? That card is done. So one thing you could glue it straight down. Certainly that would be nice and quick and easy, or you could put dimensionals all the way around. Just to save time today, I'm going to glue it down. I will show you one that I did put up on dimensionals. But this I will put up on dimensionals. That's a small little piece, easy to add. 1, 2, 3, 4. One simple focal point, clean and simple. Voila. Okay. So then here's one that I did pop up on dimensionals. I popped up that layer and I also popped this up. Now you can probably see a little difference in the coloring of the flowers. So this one I stamped straight as you saw. This one I actually stamped with the cloud cover and then I added some highlights of the secret C with my marker. So I'm going to show you what that looks like next. Again, I'll take my scrap paper. I'm going to take my garden green, stamp the stems and leaves. Okay, and then because I stamped this with Secret C already, I'm going to make sure I clean it off first before I tap it on my lighter colored cloud cover. You want to do, when you're adding highlights or doubling up on colors like this, you want to do the lighter color first. So that's the cloud cover. But isn't it interesting when it's on the pad, it looks really dark, almost like the Secret C, doesn't it? So that's why you want to be careful. I will eventually put a label on here to tell me it's cloud cover. Right now, this is the only spot I have. Now, this is kind of, excuse me, this is kind of juicy and sort of beating up there, which is kind of good because when I add my darker color highlights with my marker, it's going to blend a little bit better. So I'm just using my brush tip and just adding a few little highlights down the bottom. You really can't see. You're just going to have to trust what's happening here. And like I said, because it is kind of wet and juicy, it's going to blend, especially when it hits the paper. So here we go. Here. All right, so there you do have some little highlights of the darker color in there, a little bit of shading. So that's another option of what you can do there, right? If you have a little bit more time. But notice it's the same layout, but because my scrap was a little bigger, this is a different size than that one. But it's okay. Still looks nice, right? Okay, so then here's one I did horizontally, but this time I just added a Secret C border around, another layer, Secret C, did it horizontally and used a different sentiment, did my glow there, and just to kick it up a notch, I die cut this part out. So I told you I would show you how that die cut was working. So here I stamped it on the white and I used this to die cut it out and put it there. And I thought it just stood out a little nicer against the, having that detail around the element there kind of stands out a little nicer. I added some embellishments this time. Again, it's your call. If you want to keep it super simple, if you want to add a couple embellishments, it's the easy way to kick it up. This is the 2527 in color flat pearls. Okay, they are lovely. Again, they don't add too much height to your card, easier to mail. And this is the Secret C color that matches the cardstock there. Okay, so now let's say, what if you have a longer, wider piece of paper? Okay, I'm going to show you a quick, easy thing you can do with this one. I'll put 3 flowers across. 1, 2, 3. Bing, bang, boom. I will do the outer ones in cloud cover. There we go. the middle one in Secret C. I am cleaning it off, even though I am going to a darker color. I don't want to mix them. But this time I'm going to stamp off. I was going to tell you, I was going to show you that. I'm going to stamp off once, and then this is going to come in at a slightly lighter shade than the full strength, but yet it's darker than the cloud cover. So now you have different ways to do shading without having to mix things up much. And then, of course, you can cut this down to the size that you want, mat it on some matted on Secret C. I popped this up on dimensionals, and this time I used 4 by 5 1/4 for my layer, and I used the You Make Me Smile. Okay, so just taking my scrap, doing that, matting it down, bam, another beautiful card right there. So then I was thinking one more thing, another thing that you can do is, let me take my layers again. Card base. Of course, if you want more color, you can make a colored card base. Do that in the Secret C and then just put your layer on top. But I do like a clean and simple look. The nice white, a lot of white space. All right, so this is 4 by 5 1/4 for that layer there. And then what I did was, there's another piece, another stamp in here that has just this texture here, and that could be used as a quick, easy background as well. So what I did was I took that stamp and I stamped it across Secret C on Secret C, just to give a nice little border. And we're going to use that going across the card. Let's see, which way do I want to go? Let's make this one a vertical. Okay, let's make this one vertical. So I'm going to just go across like this, and it's 4, so I'm going to make it just a little shorter. I'm going to go to 3 3/4. And that will go across like that. Again, this is just a scrap. I'm going to take a little bit off the edge, so you don't have to measure it. Just eyeball it and see what looks good to you. So I have a little bit more even border around that. So there, that goes there. And then I took one of my scraps and I stamped my flowers on there, and instead of cutting it into a rectangle, I just used my punches. I used my 2-inch circle punch, and I matted it with my 2 3/8 circle punch. And that's going to make for a beautiful, clean and simple card there. So let me just get my bloom, and I'm going to put, I wonder if where your planted fits the one. Okay, it does fit over here. So I'm going to show you what I did with this one. This is going to be a little on the higher side. To make sure this fits, I'm going to do the where you're planted down below. And I'm going to do that first so that I know I have the right amount of space. Hopefully I get it straight. Okay. And this would look lovely, I think, even with the You Make Me Smile. I love the font as well. It's very, very pretty. But I did want to show you how I felt this worked better, doing this part first. And then the bloom. Now the bloom, when you're lining this up, it's a script and it is angled toward the right. So sometimes that skews your vision as to what's straight or not. Sometimes I end up making a little crooked. So I tend to sometimes bring it up too far on the right. No, too far on the left. But let's see how this works. Okay, that worked out pretty well. See, once you kind of know your faults, the things that mess you up a little bit, then you can overcome those, right? And so I'm just going to do this real quick. I want to measure where this is going to be before I place that down. And I just think that clean, simple look, and these are some of my favorite colors, are just beautiful. Okay, so then this is going to go on my card. Again, you can put it with dimensionals if you want, but if you're in a hurry, just glue it down. And of course, something has to be up on dimensional. So let's put this, right? 1, 2, 3. And then don't forget your edges. Don't throw those away. Cut them and use them. Okay, ta-da, nice, clean and simple look there. Let me bring them all back so that you can see the variety, and hopefully you will choose one to make when you need something quick, easy, elegant. Okay, there, and there. How can I fit this in here? All right, here we go, like this. So you have all those different versions right there, and keeping to a simple amount of ink, simple card bases. I always keep packages of these white layers and the card bases handy so that I can just reach in my drawer to the right of me and pull those out. So I really hope you like those, and I hope you come back again for the next Whip It Up Wednesday. Have a great week, everybody.